Okay, so next up we're going to look at ace 7-6 and ace 8-4. Let's look at ace 7-6 first. So basically ace 7-6 and ace 8-4 are the type of boards where the second card isn't Broadway, so there's no Broadway straight draws, but the two bottom cards are still quite connected, and there's going to be possibilities to make straight draws with the two bottom cards, basically. And so they kind of fit into the same category. And we're going to try to create good strategies for these boards. So again, monotone boards and rainbow or suited boards appear to be quite different, but we're going to simplify the monotone board a ton. So let's just start with a monotone board, basically. So here we see the GTO solution, which is to bet like mixed half pot, mixed checking, and mixed one big blind. And then I actually don't think people will, I mean, against one big blind they have to raise a ton, so they might not do that. Against half pot they need to call, and they do need to start folding some sixes. But like, so whilst their strategy isn't too complicated, I think our strategy is also extremely complicated. I mean, it's hard to remember to check all your kings unless it's got like the king of hearts, and like check back some of the weaker aces. I mean, it does make sense what we want to do. If we don't round, it looks, as we see, everything is doing something a bit everywhere. This is why rounding is so useful when trying to analyze the flops. You really get to have a sense of what types of hands want to do what. And basically, if I was to try to play GTO, I think I would mess this up, and I'd probably just try to play like this. But I mean, I wouldn't be checking back my sevens here, so, and I wouldn't be betting 10-6, for example, sometimes. So and then, what hands to bet half pot, what hands to bet small, really tough for us to remember. So I don't think it's very practical to try to do this. So ran some other sims, one big blind only, half pot entire range. So let's start with half pot only. Alright, so half pot only. Still a lot of checking. And it's not a terrible strategy because... Oh wait, this isn't even the correct flop. Alright, well, half pot entire range, whatever. So if we bet half pot the entire range, they do need to raise a lot. But the thing is, they shouldn't be folding any sixes, and I think a lot of people won't be folding sixes anyways. They should still be raising most of their flushes. Yeah, they should be raising sometimes with like these weak sevens. If we did half pot only here and included a checking range, it would probably not have to raise like as many of these six or like king five with the backdoor flush draw, etc. So this is a simple strategy to remember, but I wanted to make our game plan just even simpler, basically, and just bet one big blind only. We can do it with our entire range. Maybe I should. I wonder if we set 4 small only. We can do it basically 100%. No. So notice how on most monotone flops we still can't bet our entire range. But I think it's fine to bet our entire range. I didn't analyze, I didn't make us bet everything, but we're still betting almost 90%, so it should be fine. And they still can't fold a 6. I don't think they will be, but they will probably not be raising enough hands. such as, I don't know, Queen 9 with a Queen of Hearts, or Queen 5, King 3 with a high heart. And they still need to be raising all of these 5-3, 6-3, 6-4 type of hands. And so I do like the idea of, once again, just going for the min bet on the flop and then going from there. Very simple strategy. The reason why I prefer half pot on ace king 5 and ace queen 5 is because I think they would still be calling a lot of bottom pairs and they wouldn't be raising enough. Whereas here, where like we're not extracting more value from a 6 because they're supposed to call it anyways. So I think it makes more sense to be betting one big blind here, but it shouldn't really matter. If you want to use half pot only, that should also work. Could quickly look at a turn. Let's say the 2 of hearts. Let's add quarter bet, which would be, what would a quarter pot be here? Like 1.75 around? Let me just calculate that. Yeah, about 1.7. So let's recalculate this. Let me pause while we calc. Okay, so here we are on the turn. As we see on the 4th heart, the block bet is being used again. So last time we checked on heart board, like ace king 5 of hearts or something, we bet half pot, our entire range, and we would block bet on the turn. We see even when we're betting only one big blind on the flop, we're still doing it again. Like we are going to continue like block betting on the turn, basically. Very simple strategy. We're block betting almost all of our aces also. That's quite important to note. Like we're only checking back our aces with a flush actually. So we're block betting our aces just in order to like get value from worse and not have to face bets on the river. So if we block bet, they should be calling with still every single 7 basically. They should be calling with some 6s. Yeah, so no, we're definitely getting quite a bit of value, basically. Okay. So I do like the idea of block betting pretty much every single ace that doesn't have a heart, and then checking the aces that do have a heart. King, queen, queen, jack. We're going to block bet, although we almost always have a heart with us. So we were actually checking on the flop some king, queen, king, jack that didn't have a heart, basically. Block betting jacks even. Well, okay, we always bet with a heart on the flop. So this is where like it could be useful to analyze if we had bet our entire range. But I'm sure we'd still be using a block betting strategy, but I'd probably be checking back jacks without a heart then. So all king high flushes and queen high flushes on the turn will be checked. Well, we don't have many of them, but yeah, they will be checked. That's quite interesting. Still blocking our sets, blocking 5s, 4s, 3s, and 2s, probably with the intention to barrel river, unless we've got a heart. And so basically on a 4th heart, we'd be utilizing a block betting strategy, which does make a lot of sense. What other turns could we analyze? I mean, on rivers, you'll be very polarized, obviously. I mean, maybe we could analyze the river just because, why not? 3 should be a blank here. And as we see, just 2x over bet shove is a thing. Not surprising, we're going to be jamming our strongest flushes. So king high and queen high flushes will be jamming, checking back all of our like non-flushes basically, and like non-flushes that have some type of showdown value. And what bluffs? So the standard size is a jam, as we see. Like a lot of people might bet like 3/4 pot or full pot, but the standard size should be a jam. And if we have complete air, which we shouldn't have too much of because we shouldn't be barreling too much, then that does work well as a jam. But you know, I do think a lot of people will be like, over folding. Like they should be calling. Well, they should be calling. Jack high flushes. I mean, they should call all their 2-card flushes, which some people might not. And sometimes they call like 5 high flushes. I mean, it's obviously going to be quite mixed. So all jack high flushes and better are must call. Yeah, it's basically jack high flushes and better, and then some like flush plus pairs, because in position shouldn't be bluffing with like any pairs basically, and all 2-card flushes as well, because they have good, they're just good blockers, blocking more combinations of enemies' own flushes. So, you know, maybe I could make people overfold slightly. Empty. Let's make people overfold these. And like all these ones that have like tiny percentage of calls. And maybe 1 or 2 combos of 2-card flushes. Can we jam way more? And the answer is, now we are going to be turning our third pairs into a bluff. So we're going to be turning, well, we only have 6-4, but basically we're going to start turning some third pairs into a bluff. And like, yeah, whenever we have nothing, we can almost always bluff as well. So that's a good way to put it. Also, if we look at the turn range, like even against a block bet, they should almost never be raising. They basically can't be raising any flushes. Like they shouldn't even have a raising range here, even though we're just block betting, which, I mean, maybe you can raise a bit, right? With like some of your top flushes, but I don't know, King Jack and Queen Jack of hearts, or like King 9. But they should be calling like all their king high flushes basically, and so some people might be raising against the block bet a lot, giving us even more fold equity on the river. So, you know, if we take this line, we can really like bluff a ton on rivers basically. If it goes check check on the turn, they should be betting, and if against a small bet we can call even with a lot of our, well, we actually have, okay, these are flushes. We can call even with like some 7s. and basically any flush that we bet. If they jam, we have to fold more, obviously. If they jam here, we have to fold all our sevens. If they bet just like pot or something, we still jam our king and queen eye flushes. And our sevens become kind of indifferent to calling and folding, so sevens are still good bluff catches here, surprisingly enough. Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to look at. Maybe we can look at like a blank 2 here, whatever. And on a blank, let's calculate quickly. Okay, so here we are on the 2. It's now going to be quite a different strategy. We will be barreling at least half pot. Looks like 3/4 is generally pretty decent sizing here. I mean, we want to barrel with our aces, 3/4. It's interesting that, you know, a lot of underpairs with a flush draw just want to barrel, or even without a flush draw, just want to barrel half pot. All our flushes want to be barreling half pot. So it's very clear what type of hands want to be betting half pot or 3/4. I mean, and there are some hands that want to do something specific. So it's very clear here what it is. I wonder if I could actually implement that in game. I mean, I think I usually just end up barreling 3/4 of the time. I mean, 3/4 pot with whatever I'm doing it with. Yeah. But the thing is, we are barreling an extremely wide range. Okay, I didn't even include all the hands. In extremely wide range. I mean, is there a way to simplify this? Maybe let's get rid of some bet sizings. Just do that. And we're going to look at, if we only use 3/4 pot, what should our range be? I think that's going to be a lot simpler to remember the idea behind it. Okay, so here we have a 3/4 pot sizing only strategy. So we will be barreling almost all of our flushes. We will be checking basically all of our sevens. Let's see if there's any betting going on with sevens. If I don't round it, no. What should they be calling? If they're calling all their sevens, like let's assume that they call all their sevens, then I'm sure we could be barreling like king 7 for value, basically. So I wouldn't hate barreling king 7 for value, you know, and all over pairs, basically. Not really in the mood to note lock that right now, but maybe after we do this quick analysis. So all over pairs prefer barreling in general, but maybe not always. Some of these sixes can be turned into a bluff, it looks like. And we will be barreling all of this trash. You know, we will be checking back 9-8. 8-5 as well. 10-9 and 10-8 will still be barreled though. So it's only like the open-enders which are checking back here. So we're basically barreling a massive amount of hands, which does make quite a bit of sense. And we're also, let's see, flush draws, barreling without anything, checking back with a flush draw. Is that the same for kings? King 9? No, king 9 will barrel with a flush draw. So I guess king 10 has a bit too much value and showdown value to be checking back, whereas king 9 starts to be better to be bluffing with and having your kings in that range. I mean, pretty interesting that King 9 and King 8 want to barrel with a flush draw, whereas King 10 wants to barrel without a flush draw. Queen 10 barreling with a flush draw, Queen Jack barreling without a flush draw. Yeah, so interesting. So the more value you got, like even if it's minor and you're probably never winning with King 10 or Queen Jack on the river anyways, like you prefer to check back the strong versions, the stronger kickers, in order to be able to hit some flush draws on the river sometimes. You can still, obviously, your range is protected, therefore, on a fourth flush if you're checking back some flush draws. Okay, so let's do the node locking thing I talked about. So if somebody is going to call, what is this, player 1 calls? Okay, let's just get rid of the rounding, because here, I mean, yeah, if we look at this, it doesn't really make sense. That's why I like rounding. But here, I want to do just specifically for this to see if my intuition is correct. So let's say he's calling all 7s. Apply. So I want to see if we can barrel more with like King 7 and 9s and 10s and pocket 8s if we assume that he's going to call every single 7 on the turn. So 1 second. Okay, so here we are. This guy is now calling all of his 7s. And now King 7 does start to get barreled more. Well, okay, not if we round it still. Alright, that's interesting. I thought it would be barreling more. It's actually barreling less. Like, wasn't it barreling pocket aces and pocket kings, pocket queens before? That's weird. Well, it is barreling pocket 9s more. I think I was looking like at the half pot sim for these. It makes sense that it wants to check back kings and queens when we're using only 3/4 of the pot. We might have some more bluffs, right? Well, yeah, before we were barreling King 5 and King 4, and we were barreling like, you know, King 9 with the 9 of hearts, and Queen Jack, we were bluffing King 10 off without any equity, Queen Jack off without any equity, and now these hands stop being barreled against someone who's calling all of their 7s. So we're bluffing a bit less, and we're betting, I think we were checking back a few of our aces as well, whereas now we're betting them all. So let's unlock. Let's just make sure I was correct on that. So let's check. I should really have opened it here for comparison, I think. Anyways. Okay, so we're back. And yeah, we're now checking a bit of ace 9. We are barreling kings and queens. That's weird. That's not what I expected. Still checking aces, checking a bit more aces, like ace 5, ace 9. But yeah, everything like and barreling some more bluffs. Okay, cool. Yeah. Alright, this was probably a bit long, but okay. I just wanted to check that out of curiosity. But yeah, I think we covered most turns now. Okay. Or like we covered some interesting turns. So, conclusion for monotone low connected boards like ace 7, 6 or ace 8, 4, I like to bet small, although people are free to choose whatever strategy they want, obviously. Alright, so now let's analyze the rainbow and suited flops. This might be more interesting. So basically, as we see, there's a clear strategy. It's to bet small and large. I mean, half pot is being used a little bit, but it's definitely not the most common sizing. Half pot is being used a bit on the suited flop, but not that much. And pot is being used a bit on the rainbow flop, but again, not that much. So I think we can definitely simplify by just, going small and large, which is quite standard, basically. This is going to be our standard on the majority of ace-high flops that are not monotone, pretty much. And this won't be an exception. So it's going to be very clear what type of hands we want to bet large again, mostly aces. And we do want to bet large with most of our sevens. Sevens do need protection, as well as jacks plus. I mean, eights to jacks, so jacks and worse. Weaker pocket pairs do want to bet small, unless maybe threes or sixes. So threes with a backdoor flush draw here will be betting small, whereas threes without might be turning themselves into a bluff. I'm sure that these threes are going to be triple barreling. Let's see, and again, total air. A queen 4 with the flush draw backdoors are going to be betting large. Like these open-enders bet small, like they can afford to call against a raise, and at the same time, we want to be able to hit like some straights and cooler our opponent. Betting small with weak aces, with ace-6 and 7-6. I wouldn't mind betting small either with like ace-8, for example. But overall, I think this strategy is quite intuitive. Hands like Jack-10, Queen-10, these are kind of close to bottom of our range, so we want to check more kings here. I mean, bet small with more kings, they have more showdown value and more fold equity because they'll have less kings to call with. Whereas Jack-10 will appreciate the fold equity and try to fold kings out, so it makes sense to be betting larger with Jack-10, 10-9 offsuit. Okay, we can look at a few turns. Let's bring like a blank 2 here, and then a flush completing 2 here. So they should be checking always, pretty much. And it looks like half pot is standard. I don't think if I add a note it's going to change much. Oh wait, what is 1/4 of 11? I'll just make it 3. Or like 2.75 should work. And I'll get rid of the donking range. Here there's not going to be any block betting on the turn, that's for sure. Still betting like half pot quite often though. Although 3/4 pot is being used too. So when you use a large sizing on the flop, important to remember that you don't need to just barrel like 3/4 of the pot as a standard. You can easily barrel half pot because you can easily just jam on rivers anyways. You're going to have you'll have less than 1 SPR just by barreling half pot, even on a very dry board. So, it might even just be best to pick like, I don't know, 2/3 pot as a standard sizing here. Like 3/4 is kind of so big that maybe like 3/4 is the ideal sizing if we had to pick one, because it's really mixed here, as we see. And we do want to barrel with 8s to jacks, like all the like basically every ace and all the overpairs. And then for bluffs, where are our flush draws? Okay, just 7s. For bluffs, sometimes like some random Jack 10, Jack 9, Queen 10 off. Much better to have a spade in it in order to be barreling with the bluffs, basically. Here, as we see, the block bet is the preferred size. And these are all flushes. We even check, yeah, because so much of their calling range is flush draws on the flop, we're now even checking our aces on the turn, which is quite incredible. Thought we might be blocking them as well. So this completely turns everything around, because we now become much more polarized. We even have to check back a lot of our flushes. Like our strongest 2 overcard flushes, we're checking most of those back actually. So Queen 10, King Jack, Queen 9, etc. We're going to be checking a ton of flushes back. Oh no, sorry, I was looking at out of positions range. God damn it. Still checking a lot of aces, as we see. It's going to be lots of block betting still. And block betting a very wide range, not checking flushes. Top pair, 2 pair, so betting, still checking quite a few 2 pairs, to be honest, checking ace 6 all the time. Let's see, like checking most of these aces. Like especially with a flush draw, it's just going to check the aces with a flush draw and barrel without, just for protection. So Queen 10, Jack 9, Jack 10, these are some of our bluffs. So 2 random overcards can be decent bluffs. Okay. And I want to know if we check, like, how much should we bet on the river, basically. So let's bring, like, I don't know, a jack on the river. So he checks to us, and with an ace, we are going to bet 3/4 of the pot now on the river. Okay. And then it's going to raise, and we're going to call, but in reality, we hate calling. I mean, we call, like, half our aces, yeah. And how many flushes should he be betting? Like 66% of them. So it's pretty interesting, but I mean, like I'm always betting my ace, and then like they raise so much here, I feel, and it's always a flush actually. So I feel like people are just not betting their flushes enough on rivers or something. I don't know, could be selective memory there. So I'll probably just play like this quite often, basically. Will I be betting with like Queen 10? Okay, it's good to see what our bluffing range should look like, and you know, we can still be bluffing with like random Queen High, King High sometimes. Let's empty this. Like, what should we be betting? Nothing. I mean, it's not often. It's like 1/4 of the time, so it's hard to really decide what bluffs you're going to use. It doesn't seem to prefer selecting any bluffs in particular. Obviously a heart would be better. Like having a heart would be nice. A 10 of hearts is really good. Anyways, it's going to do it about 1/4 of the time, so I might just use a randomizer on the river for my bluffs. Like, that might be the easiest way to do it. Alright, so anyways, we checked that out. This was, I think, more intuitive. Okay, so yeah, that was the conclusion for these type of flops. Ace 8-4 will not be very different. So this is the GTO solution for Ace 8-4. And this is GTO for Rainbow Ace 8-4. So again, prefers to use, well, pretty mixed here, but again, we see clearly small and large sizings do want to be used here as well. Although here there's a lot more small sizing. Again, it's a lot less connected than 7-6, obviously, so that's probably why we're checking a lot more. I mean, we're betting small a lot more, but big sizing does still want to be used. And so low connected boards, and now once we switch it to 2 sizings only, it makes more sense. It's going to be very intuitive what types of hands we want to be using the large sizing and the small sizings with. So that's good. These Ace 8-4 and Ace 7-6 are relatively similar textures, even though they do have some difference. They can be put into a similar board texture category, I think. So small and large on ace high boards with 2 low connected cards, basically. And then only 1 big blind on the mono version. So quite intuitive now and easy to remember, which was my goal with this. I think for the final flop texture, it would be Ace 4-3. So Ace 4-3 is pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know, they're all pretty interesting. Ace 4-3 GTO, GTO, monotone. Okay. So Ace 4-3 rainbow, 1 big blind only. Ace 4-3 suited, 1 big blind only. Ace 4-3 monotone, 1 big blind only. So it's actually very easy to remember our strategy. So on wheel boards, our strategy on all of them is simply going to be to bet 1 big blind only. Betting large doesn't gain too much benefits, like by betting 1 big blind only, they still have to fold so much on the flop. And it's actually incredible because they should raise a shit ton. Like they need to be raising only a small sizing, 3 big blind raise. And they need to be raising like a ton of their gut shots, especially with backdoor flush draws. They need to be raising like backdoor flush draw plus backdoor straight draws, like Queen 7 of hearts, just raise. Like 10-6 of hearts, just raise. They need to raise tons of their aces, like Ace 5, all their 2 pairs. So they need to have an extremely high raising frequency, and I think people won't have enough. So if we just play GTO on these boards, they're going to make big mistakes, I think. On the suited version, we bet 1 big blind our entire range. They raise less than on rainbow boards, but they still raise a shit ton. So again, people won't be raising enough, and they have to fold like hands like Queen 7 and, you know, all these hands. And so it's just really good proposition to be betting here. And so, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fold equity here, which is great. I think I have 1 big blind entire range. Let's see. Well, 95%, good enough. So if we bet one big blind on ace 4-3 here, again, they need to raise a ton. They're actually raising almost all their flushes here, which is fine. But they need to, again, raise all these, like, king 3 with the king of hearts, like queen 8 with the queen of hearts and stuff like that. 9-7 with the 9 of hearts. 8-7 always with a heart. So it's just insane how much they need to be raising again. And the reason why we can't bet large on this is also because we don't have any 5-2 while they do. So wheel boards do hit out of position quite a bit more significantly than on other ace high flops. So this is one of the flops where we go our entire range small, no matter whether it's suited or rainbow or monotone. So pretty easy strategy for us, basically. I wonder if I want to look at some turns. I mean, I don't think it'll be too interesting, but like, they should be calling those kings. Maybe we can check out a king and a blank. So on a king, we bet pot, check out kings, barrel, ace-8 plus, checking all under pairs because the king did hit his range. So, okay, so since the king hit his range, we know that he's never folding a king, right? Yeah, he even has to fold a king sometimes. But even though he's never folding a king, we're using a pot-sized bet, and we're still going to be able to bluff quite a bit. And he should be folding almost everything else, like all his under pairs, and also all his gut shots, obviously, which is great. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty simple strategy to remember. I didn't even know I did round it. Okay. Like, even if I don't round it, he still needs to fold all his 3s and 4s without any additional equity. Good to see. Okay. And so, yeah, just bluffing like bottom of our range, basically, like 9-8, like 9 high and stuff, 10 high. Yeah, so we could say 10 high and worse without any additional equity. We barrel, but if we have like a straight draw some type, we check. What about on a more blanked card, like a 7 maybe? On a 7, 3/4 of the pot makes more sense now. Barreling all 7s, barreling pocket 8s, pocket 9s, still checking queens, kings. Oh wait, the 7 isn't a blank. It completes a straight. Well, that's still good to analyze, kind of. And still barreling most of our aces. Maybe an 8 is a total blank. So on an 8, 3/4 pot, and we're like, now we can basically barrel almost everything, you know, everything except king high and pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks. Just barrel pretty much everything, like all of our aces. Yeah, insane. But it makes sense. Like 8 is an absolute blank, and we just barrel a ton, and we put them in tough spots. They will have to call some of their 4s. They will have to call a good amount of their 3s. Still barreling king 4 for value even. Barreling all 8s for value, that makes sense. Yeah, I like it. Finally, let's do like a wheel card. So let's say the 2. On the 2, well, they should be donking a lot, that's the thing. And even if they donk, we shouldn't really be barreling too much, and it should be, I think this is one turn where it makes sense to be blocking as well, so 0.7, whatever. Okay, let's just analyze the rainbow ones. We can use this as a point of comparison. I want to make this guy just not donk at all. I also want to add a node. Block betting does make sense. No donks. Okay, let's wait for the results. Okay, so the one without any donking's done first. And now that he's not donking at all, we should basically check back all the time, which does make a lot of sense to me. No blocking, and we just check back our entire range and go from there. I mean, I'm sure that he's going to be, yeah, he's going to be jamming like out of position if it checks through. In the no donk simulation, should be jamming a lot. People probably won't be doing that. They won't be trying to maximize their value. Instead, they might just bet pot, I guess. And when they bet pot, we can reshove with our king, I mean with our fives. And we can actually call a good amount of aces. So let's just get rid of pot strategy, I mean jam strategy there, because a lot of people probably won't do it. Okay, still no block betting on over here when he is donking. Here, again, let's say he's potting it. And if pot is his only sizing, and he should be potting with all, well, not all fives, but, you know, a lot of fives. He should be potting with a lot, well, he shouldn't have any sets really, but two pairs. Let's see, ace two, like all two pairs, 3-2, yeah, all two pairs are just potting. Potting with a lot of like queen nine. Let's see what air he's potting. Like basically queen high and worse. Every time he has queen high and worse, he's potting. I think people will do that enough. But maybe people will be potting too often with a straight. And that's the only bad thing. So maybe we make him pot all the straights. Maybe just leave king 5, I guess. And no, just make him not pot ace 5. Maybe that's how they balance it. Just check for ace 5, but pot everything else. So okay, now they're potting all of their fives, and they're still potting all of these bluffs. And now we can fold basically everything that's not a two pair or better. Interesting. Okay. I think some people might be potting some of their twos too, though, so this is again just curiosity. Like, when can we call? When can we fold? Stuff like that. No rounding here. So they're potting some twos as a bluff now, which I think some people would do. Even if they're potting all their twos, as long as they pot all their fives, and they're still potting all their twos and all their like air that isn't king high, we still basically fold all of our hands that are not ace, that are not two pairs or better. I guess they really need to be potting like all of these, huh? So let's see. Will we be able to start calling some ace highs now? I think yes. Yeah, now we can call all of them, even if he's doing potting that, even if he's potting ace-8. Yeah, so in order for us to be folding, to be calling aces, he needs to be potting all air and all twos, because if he's not potting all twos, like, which he isn't supposed to be, oops. He's, what am I doing? Okay, he's supposed to be checking all of these. I think it's pretty easy for people to overbluff here, even if they do have all their value here. Yeah, even if they're not bluffing their twos, but they pot all of their air, so they pot all their king high, we can just call with every single ace. So seems like a good spot to just be bluff catching then, huh? We're even calling fours. King 4, king 3. That's insane. Like, they're still potting every single straight. They just have too many king, like, they just can't be potting like king high. Alright, good. So I can check back my entire range and call against the pot in this situation. I mean, I think that's pretty interesting. I'm happy that I saw that. Final thing I want to see is if they do check to us, like what would GTO, how would GTO be playing? This isn't really interesting because they're donking, and if they do have a donking range, then we can keep barreling our aces for value, but given most people probably won't be donking enough, I think having a full check strategy will be totally fine. Like, even if they donk, I don't think it would make a huge difference, to be honest. For us, I mean. Let's see. So, if they check to us, we should now value bet most of our aces for thin value, like half pot sounds good. And we can also do it with like some just air, especially sixes and sevens. Alright, I don't know why I select those hands, but okay. And I don't know why we're not bluffing with these sometimes. Well, I know why we're not bluffing with these, because then we'd be over bluffing. But looks like we really want to have like a 7 or a 6 in order to be bluffing. How come? I don't know. I'm not going to look into that too much. I was more interested in my aces, if they wanted to bet or not. Okay, cool. Is that it? Like, is that all I wanted to analyze? So, maybe I just want to, like, here we see in position clearly has an advantage when villain isn't donking at all, so that's good for us. But I want to rebuild this branch, and I want to see, I want to make this guy, I want to make us check 100%. So now we're the ones checking 100%. And I want to see if it's even a bad strategy to be checking 100% against someone who does have a donking range. Because maybe just checking 100% as a default could be a good strategy here. I mean, by the looks of the solution, it looked like it. So we'll let this calculate. Okay, so finally, here we are. We see this guy's... wait. Okay, this guy's still donking, but we're checking back in position 100%. This guy's donking, and we're not checking back 100%. So I want to see the EV difference here. 1.429, 1.3. Okay, so if someone does have a donking strategy, then I think clearly we do want to keep on barreling. So we do want to keep on barreling with our fives and even a good portion of our aces, basically. And that means we also want to keep barreling with some bluffs. There was very little block betting, if I remember correctly. So probably like just doing half pot as our default would be a good sizing here. I think the main thing is to keep barreling some of our aces. Because a lot of people might think that aces should be checked back here, but it's good to see that we should keep barreling a lot of our aces, and I'm sure they need to call all their aces, even against large bet. Yeah, even against a 3/4 pot, they need to call all their aces. But yeah, they do need to fold most of their threes or fours. I think half pot's a really good sizing, because to half pot, they should be calling like 2/3 of their under pairs, like fours and threes. But people probably aren't doing that. So half pot's a good sizing, and it should encourage them to call more when we get value, but we still get a good amount of folds when we are bluffing like jack high and worse. Alright, sounds good. Cool, so that's it for my analysis of the low connected boards, and I mean on the wheel boards and on these. I think we did a 7-6-2 in this video. And basically on the wheel boards we go one big blind only. On the low connected boards we can split sizings. On all monotone flops that are low we go one big blind only.